Hey everyone, ready to dive deep into the world of Safe? Released on April 27th, 2012, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're uncovering every thrilling detail. If you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us grow. And for more incredible movie explorations and hidden gems, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's unravel the magic behind this cinematic masterpiece. From the opening moments, Safe sets a tone of cold brutality and emotional isolation. We meet Luke Wright, played by Jason Statham, a former elite cop turned down-and-out cage fighter. Once an elite agent in a shadowy government program, Luke's now a ghost in the world, surviving day-to-day in a lifeless routine. But his quiet existence is shattered when he crosses the Russian mafia during a fixed fight, accidentally winning when he was supposed to take a dive. His punishment isn't death, it's psychological torture. The Russians murder his wife and vow to kill anyone he befriends, condemning Luke to a life of isolation and fear. Meanwhile, across the world in China, a young math prodigy named May is recruited by the triads. But her gift isn't just academic, it's memorization. She can remember massive strings of numbers perfectly, and that makes her incredibly valuable. The Chinese mob sees her as the perfect tool. No paper trail, no electronic records, just pure mental data storage. She's brought to New York to work under Hong Jiao, a ruthless triad boss who sees May as a human vault. The story gains momentum when May memorizes a mysterious, high-value code, one that can unlock a fortune in cash and data. Suddenly, she's the target of multiple factions. The triads want her secure, the Russian mafia wants her captured, and even elements of the corrupt NYPD, led by Captain Wolf, are desperate to get their hands on the code. This chaotic convergence of criminal empires sets up a relentless chase through the heart of New York City. Luke, now teetering on the edge of suicide, spots May being hunted in a subway station. In that moment, something within him sparks, perhaps guilt, instinct, or just a desperate need for redemption. He steps in and rescues her, throwing himself into the line of fire from the Russians, triads, and dirty cops. From this point, the film explodes into a whirlwind of action, with Luke using his deadly training to dismantle his enemies, one brutal encounter at a time. As Luke and May bond, their relationship becomes the emotional core of the film. Luke isn't just saving her, she's saving him. May's strength, resilience, and intelligence remind him that he still has something to fight for. But the road is anything but easy. With everyone after them, they bounce between hideouts, safe houses, and explosive confrontations, all while peeling back the layers of corruption that run deeper than either of them expected. The mystery of the code deepens. It's eventually revealed that it contains the combination to a massive underground safe, filled with $30 million. But what makes the story more gripping is the revelation that not only the mob, but the city's law enforcement and government figures are tied into the conspiracy. Everyone wants that money, and no one is playing clean. Luke navigates this web of betrayal with brutal efficiency, taking down anyone who stands between him and May's safety. In classic Jason Statham fashion, he blends cold strategy with relentless violence, from car chases through Manhattan to shootouts in luxury hotels. The choreography is tight, the pacing electric, and the stakes feel real because at the center of it all is a child who refuses to be a pawn. As the film hurtles toward its climax, Luke confronts not just the villains who destroyed his past, but the part of himself that gave up. He cuts through corruption with precision, exposing the criminal enterprise within the NYPD, dismantling the triad's operation, and finally liberating May from a life of servitude. When the dust settles, May is no longer just a girl on the run. She's someone who's finally free, and Luke has found a purpose again. Safe isn't just an action film. It's a story about redemption, protection, and the bond between two people who were abandoned by the world, but found strength in each other. Jason Statham delivers one of his most emotionally grounded performances, while still unleashing the signature action sequences that fans crave. The cinematography captures the grit of New York's underbelly, and Boaz Yakin's direction ensures that the story never loses its emotional weight amidst the chaos. By the end, you're not just left with the thrill of the action, you're left with the feeling that even the most broken people can find something worth fighting for. That beneath all the bullets and blood, there's a human story of two souls saving each other. Thanks for diving into Safe with us. If you enjoyed this breakdown, and want more deep dives into action classics and cinematic gems, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We've got so much more in store, and we can't wait to explore it all with you. Until next time, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep loving movies. Released on April 27th, 2012, Safe stormed into theaters with the kind of energy that grabs you from the very first scene and doesn't let go. Directed by Boaz Yakin and starring action heavyweight Jason Statham, this film delivers an intense ride through the dark underworld of New York City, blending high-stakes action with unexpected emotional depth. It's not just a shoot-'em-up story. It's a tense, gripping survival tale that mixes raw violence with quiet humanity. From the moment the story begins, there's a sense that this isn't just about fighting. It's about redemption, revenge, and protecting the one person who still has something pure left in her life. The movie doesn't waste time. Right away, we're introduced to Luke Wright, played by Jason Statham, a man who's clearly been through hell. Once a special forces operative and elite agent in a secret government unit, Luke is now living in total misery. He's become a cage fighter, just another man being beaten for sport. But what really hits hard is not his physical pain, it's the emotional one. When he accidentally wins a fight that was supposed to be rigged for a Russian mobster, everything goes downhill. The mob doesn't kill him. Instead, they destroy everything that matters to him. They kill his wife. They ruin his life. They make sure he knows that anyone he ever gets close to will end up dead. From that moment on, Luke is left to wander, invisible, depressed, and hopeless. He becomes a ghost in the city, breathing but not living. But then comes May. May is a 10-year-old Chinese girl with an extraordinary gift. She's a math prodigy with a photographic memory. Recruited and taken from China by the Triads, she's forced to work for Hon Jiao, a violent and cruel Triad boss based in New York. May isn't just working with numbers. She's being used as a human calculator to keep track of massive amounts of criminal money. No paper trail, no digital records. Everything is locked safely in her mind. It's an interesting and disturbing twist, using a child as a human vault, and it's what makes May so dangerous to everyone around her. The main plot takes off when May is given a string of numbers, a code with the power to open a hidden safe containing millions of dollars. Suddenly, she becomes the most wanted person in the city. The Russians want the code. The Triads want her back. And to make things worse, a group of corrupt New York City cops also wants the money. What begins as a story about two very different people turns into a brutal race through the streets of New York, with violence waiting around every corner. What makes Safe so captivating is the moment when Luke sees May. He's at his lowest, standing on a subway platform, ready to throw himself in front of a train. But then he notices May, terrified, running from two thugs. Something inside him snaps. He doesn't hesitate. He jumps in, saves her, and sets off a chain of events that changes both of their lives. It's not just action for the sake of action. It's a man who finally finds a reason to fight again, not for himself, but for someone who still has a future. The rest of the film becomes a desperate attempt to keep May alive while unraveling a criminal conspiracy that goes far deeper than anyone expected. This is where Safe starts to shine beyond its action elements. The pacing is tight, the tension never lets up, and the action sequences are crafted with precision. The fights are fast and brutal, but they're not just for show. Every hit, every gunshot, every chase has purpose. Whether Luke is storming a hotel full of gangsters or outsmarting crooked cops, the stakes feel real. The cinematography uses the gritty, crowded atmosphere of New York to great effect. Everything feels closed in, urgent, and dangerous. There's no escape, only forward movement. Every scene pushes the story towards something bigger. Jason Statham's performance is exactly what it needs to be, controlled but emotional. He doesn't give long speeches or show obvious sadness, but you can see it in his eyes. The weight of guilt, anger, and grief is always there, even when he's tearing through enemies like a one-man army. What sets this role apart from his usual tough guy persona is how human Luke feels. He's not just invincible. He's tired, hurt, and full of regret. May, played by Catherine Chon, is equally impressive. She never feels like a sidekick or a background character. She's smart, brave, and fully capable of holding her own, even in the scariest moments. Their bond is the emotional heart of the story. It's not cheesy or forced. It's built on mutual pain and the need to survive. As the story unfolds, more layers begin to peel back. We learn more about the safe, the code, and why so many people are willing to kill for it. It's not just about money. It's about power, secrets, and betrayal. Luke discovers that the corruption runs through the police department, and even into the local government. No one is clean. No one is safe. Even people who are supposed to protect May are just using her. That's why Luke becomes her only hope. He doesn't want anything from her. He's not trying to control her. He just wants to keep her alive. And maybe, through that, give himself one last shot at redemption. One of the most intense parts of the movie is the final showdown, where Luke confronts all the major players at once. He walks into enemy territory, knowing he might not come out alive. But at this point, he's got nothing left to lose. The scenes are shot with brutal clarity, tight close-ups, frantic movement, gunshots ringing out in silence. It's not clean. It's not pretty. It's raw, chaotic, and it works perfectly for the world the film has built. What truly separates Safe from other action thrillers is its ability to keep the audience emotionally invested. Sure, the fight scenes are awesome. Yes, Statham delivers exactly the kind of gritty action we expect. But the emotional connection between Luke and May is what elevates the movie. It's not a father-daughter relationship, but it has that same protective, almost sacred quality. They don't talk much, but every look they share tells a story of trust and survival. The visual style of Safe deserves credit too. New York is shown as a maze of danger, noise, and shadows. The camera doesn't linger on beauty. It captures chaos. The alleys, subways, backrooms, and hotel corridors are claustrophobic. You feel like danger is everywhere. It adds to the constant tension. The lighting is low, the color palette is cold, and everything feels just a bit off balance, like the city itself is part of the danger. Safe also taps into real fears. Corruption in the police, exploitation of children, and the feeling of being completely powerless in a system designed to crush the weak. May's story is heartbreaking because it's not that far from reality. Children with talent are often exploited, and in the wrong hands, even brilliance becomes a burden. Luke, on the other hand, is a symbol of lost potential. A man trained to protect, but broken by the very. You feel the weight of Safe from the start. Luke Wright's life is already shattered. Once a top-level government agent, he now works as a second-rate cage fighter in New Jersey. When he unwittingly wins a fight that was supposed to be fixed, he steps into a minefield of consequence. The Russian mob reacts with cruel precision. They don't kill him, but they destroy everything he loves. His pregnant wife is murdered, and the message is clear. Anyone he gets close to will be next. Broken, Luke leaves his former world and becomes a wandering shell, all hope burned away. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, young May is living another kind of captivity. A math prodigy in China, she's been taken by the Triads, led by Han Jiao. They need her to serve as a living calculator, memorizing vast strings of numbers, so they can move criminal funds without leaving a trace. Taken to New York and assigned to gangster Quan Chong, May is a brilliant child forced into terrifying work. 1 year passes. Luke haunts New York's shadows, consumed by despair. May, still captive, is pushed to memorize more numbers when Han Jiao arrives from China. She repeats a long, mysterious number. On their way to a second location to retrieve more, their car is ambushed by the Russian mafia. May is taken to Emil Dochesky, the head of the Russians, who wants that number and sees May as a trophy. But she won't speak. Chaos erupts when corrupt NYPD cops, working for Captain Wolf, himself on Han Jiao's payroll, crash the scene. In the confusion, May escapes, running into the subway station. There, she runs straight into Luke. Or rather, he runs into her. He's standing on the edge of the platform, staring into the subway tracks, a man who has lost everything and who's ready to end it all. When Luke recognizes one of May's pursuers, Chemaikin, he feels something stir inside him. Guilt? Rage? A call to something he thought was gone? Without hesitation, he leaps into action. In a furious display, he kills Chemaikin and the other Russians, stepping between May and the violence chasing her. May, shaken, flees again, only to be stopped by corrupt detectives in pursuit. In that moment, Luke responds again. He tears into the detectives, incapacitating them. In doing so, he gains May's fragile trust. Then, he takes down more Russians who surface, ending the immediate threat. With that, the unlikely pair slips away together. They hide in a hotel room, strange, quiet shelter in the storm of violence. There, May tells Luke the number she's memorized. It's long, cryptic, and filled with meaning he doesn't yet understand. But Luke guesses. It might be a combination. A key. A way into something valuable, but hidden. At the same time, Captain Wolf meets with Mayor Danny Tremello. We learn fragments of Luke's past. He wasn't just any cop. He was a Black Ops assassin, sent in by the CIA after September 11th. His former partner, Alex Rosen, worked with him on violent, off-the-book hits to control the city's criminal underworld. But Luke blew the whistle when Wolf's squad turned dirty, and now he's exiled, living in self-imposed exile. An act of atonement, as much as abandonment. Back with May, the danger grows. Quan Chong tracks the pair down using May's phone. Luke fights through Quan's men in a brutal brawl, once again risking all to keep May safe. She's not just a target. She's someone he can't walk away from. Luke's desperation gives way to strategy. He kidnaps Vasily, Emil's son, using the boy as leverage. The deal is clear. May's safety in exchange for the code's holder. Emil tells Luke that the number unlocks a Chinatown safe holding $30 million, though he doesn't know what's kept in a second safe. Negotiating through violence, Luke secures the arrangement. If Emil opens the way, Luke will deliver vengeance and redemption. Luke recruits the corrupt Captain Wolf and his detectives to help crack the safe. Together, they storm the triads and take control, reaching the vault. But when it's time, Wolf betrays them. He tries to double-cross Luke. Luke responds with silent efficiency, killing the rogue cops, holding Wolf at gunpoint. Their alliance fractures, but the mission continues. They open the safe. Inside is the treasure, $30 million. But this is just part of what's at stake. As the second half of Safe begins, the tension tightens, and the sense of danger becomes even more personal. Luke Wright has taken control of the chaos, but every move he makes is a step deeper into a world soaked in corruption, violence, and betrayal. What started as a spontaneous decision to protect a terrified girl on a subway platform has turned into a full-blown war, and Luke is all in. With May now under his protection, Luke knows it's not enough just to keep her hidden. She holds in her mind a powerful number, a sequence that unlocks not just a vault, but a conspiracy rooted deep within New York's criminal network. He needs leverage, and fast. He captures Vasily, the son of Russian mob boss Emil Dochesky, and uses him as a bargaining chip. It's a dangerous play, but one that forces Emil to talk. Emil confirms what Luke suspected. The number May memorized unlocks a Chinatown safe holding a massive sum of money, $30 million. But there's more. A second vault exists, one even Emil can't fully explain. Something bigger is at stake. To gain access to the vaults, Luke cuts a fragile deal with Captain Wolf, the corrupt NYPD leader, and his crew of dirty detectives. Everyone wants a piece of the prize. The plan is simple: raid the Triad-controlled safe house, crack open the vault, and split the money. Of course, in a world where no one trusts anyone, it's only a matter of time before deals start falling apart. The raid is brutal. Luke and the cops storm the Chinatown location in a hail of violence. The triads resist fiercely, but Luke's training and experience turn the tide. The shootout is raw and relentless. Dust fills the air, bodies hit the ground, and Luke pushes forward, laser-focused on the mission. When they finally break into the vault, what they find is more than money. It's a moment of confrontation, with the truth, with greed, and with the lies everyone has told themselves. The vault holds the expected cash, neatly packed bundles of millions, but also something unexpected. A second, locked container holding a mysterious data disk. This is the real treasure. The disk contains information that ties the entire criminal operation together. The Russians, the triads, corrupt cops, and even people inside City Hall. It's explosive, dangerous, and priceless. Just when Luke believes he's secured a temporary victory, the betrayal hits. Captain Wolf, who's been waiting for the right moment, turns his gun on Luke. He wants the money. All of it. He wants the disc too. His greed overpowers any sense of loyalty or logic. But Luke is ready. He dispatches Wolf's men quickly, coldly. In close quarters, where every second counts, he takes them down with brutal efficiency. Wolf tries to run. Luke catches him and forces him to face the consequences of his actions. But Luke doesn't kill him. Not yet. He needs him. Wolf still holds leverage over Emil Dochesky and can help ensure May's safety in the next move. Luke offers Wolf a final deal. Help him get May back and ensure Vasily's safe return, and he'll walk away with a small cut and his life. The choice is clear. Wolf agrees. The two unlikely allies set their next moves in motion. Meanwhile, May is still in the grip of the triads. But they don't know Luke has the upper hand. He calls in a dangerous favor. Alex Rosen, Luke's old partner from his Black Ops days. Rosen, who once stood beside Luke in missions the government denied ever happened, is now working under Mayor Tremello, swimming in politics and corruption. But he still owes Luke. Luke uses the data disk as leverage. With it, he forces Rosen to help orchestrate May's rescue. Rosen sends men to retrieve her, but the plan is as dirty as every deal in this city. Luke senses it. He's dealt with too many double crosses not to. He follows closely behind, prepared for whatever comes next. Rosen successfully retrieves May, killing several Triad enforcers in the process. But instead of bringing her to safety, he tries to take her for himself. Rosen wants the disc, the money, and May, all pieces in a game he plans to win. He reveals his true colors. He's not doing this for Luke, or even for the mayor. He's doing it for power. May sees the danger. She sees Luke wounded, bleeding. In a moment of terrifying courage, she grabs Rosen's own gun and shoots him. It's not a fatal shot, but it's enough. Luke uses the opening to end it. He kills Rosen quietly, with no last words. Just the end of another betrayal in a world that's full of them. May, still shaking, looks at Luke not with fear, but with trust. He's the only one who's never lied to her, never used her. In that moment, their bond is sealed beyond words. With May finally safe by his side, Luke begins wrapping up the pieces. He arranges for Vasily's safe return to his father, Emil. In exchange, Wolf gets a cut of the money, $50,000, and a warning. Luke could have killed him, could have taken it all, but he didn't. It's not about revenge anymore. It's about setting things right. And for the first time in a long time, Luke's choices are driven not by rage, but by purpose. Luke meets with Han Jiao one last time. He offers him a deal he can't refuse. He'll give back the money, the full 30 million, but Han has to walk away from May. Forever. Luke tells him the truth. If he ever tries to take her again, if he ever sends someone after her, the information on the disc will be released. And it will destroy everything Han has built. The Triad boss listens. He knows Luke isn't bluffing. The deal is made. May is free. To protect them both from future threats, Luke makes several copies of the incriminating disc and hides them across the city. Bank vaults, safety deposit boxes, quiet places no one will look. They become insurance, his promise to May that no matter what happens next, she'll never be a target again. The people who used her, the people who killed for greed, they'll never touch her. As the chaos finally begins to quiet, Luke and May prepare to leave New York. They don't say much. They don't need to. In the silence between them is an understanding that few people ever reach. They've been through hell together. They've seen the worst of what the world can offer. And yet, they're still standing. On their way out of the city, May asks softly, "Are we safe now?" Luke doesn't give a grand speech or false promises. He simply replies, "One day at a time." It's not a fairy tale ending, but it's real. Honest. And in a world built on lies and power, that honesty means more than anything. The screen fades to black, but the story doesn't feel over. It feels like the beginning of something new, something neither of them ever expected to have again, a future. When audiences watched Safe explode onto the screen in 2012, they saw Jason Statham tearing through New York's criminal underworld with brutal efficiency. But what they didn't see, what happened just out of frame, was a production filled with surprising decisions, quiet chaos, and creative risks that made this film more than just another action flick. To start, Safe was shot under the watchful eye of director Boaz Yakin, best known before this for his emotionally charged drama Remember the Titans. His choice to shift gears and direct an action thriller surprised many in Hollywood. But Boaz wasn't just looking to direct fight scenes. He wanted to tell a redemptive story through violence. He admitted in interviews that he took Safe not just for its genre appeal, but because he saw something tragic in Luke Wright's arc, something broken and worth exploring. One of the biggest behind-the-scenes challenges came down to tone. From the start, there was a delicate balance to strike, action without losing emotional depth. Jason Statham was instrumental in keeping that balance. Known for roles in high-octane films like Crank and The Transporter, he pushed for Luke to feel real, not invincible. During production, he reportedly asked for moments of silence to be left in, even in the middle of action scenes, to give Luke's trauma room to breathe. These small choices humanized his character in ways audiences didn't expect, and critics quietly appreciated. But of course, Statham was still Statham. The stunts, mostly done by him, were intense, and often done without a stunt double. For the subway platform scene, where Luke nearly throws himself in front of a train, Statham stood just feet away from an actual moving train. While it was carefully choreographed with safety measures in place, the fear in his eyes wasn't acting. Production was halted briefly afterward to reassess the danger level, but Statham reportedly shrugged it off and said, "We've got to make it feel real, right?" Speaking of real, the film's many fight scenes weren't just staged. They were drilled repeatedly to feel improvisational. Boaz Yakin brought in a fight choreographer who specialized not in flashy martial arts, but in practical street combat. The goal was to make every punch feel like something that could actually happen in a dark alley or a cramped hotel room. Statham worked long hours rehearsing the choreography with Catherine Chon, who played May, so that their interactions, especially when he's defending her in tight quarters, would feel authentic and fluid. Chon herself was a unique find. She was only 10 years old when she was cast as May, and Safe was her first feature film. What amazed the crew was how naturally she handled such a demanding role. Scenes required her to cry on cue, perform long monologues in Mandarin, and act opposite a major Hollywood star without flinching. Despite her age, she often completed emotional takes in fewer attempts than some adult co-stars. Boaz described her as uncannily focused, and the bond she built with Statham during filming became one of the most touching aspects of the shoot. On set, Statham was reportedly very protective of her, often staying close even between takes to help her feel safe and supported during action-heavy scenes. Another strange but telling detail: the film was mostly shot in Philadelphia, not New York. While it takes place in the Big Apple, production found Philly's urban grit more accessible and cost-effective. They used city blocks, subways, and even interiors to double for Manhattan. This led to unusual moments, like scenes where a camera had to be carefully positioned to avoid a glimpse of the Liberty Bell or a Philly Transit logo. The hotel fight scene, where Luke dismantles several Russian thugs in a hallway with only his bare hands, was shot in a real, fully operational hotel. Guests were still checked in during filming, and security had to monitor doors constantly to avoid guests accidentally walking into the wrong hallway and seeing Statham slam someone through a wall. According to a production assistant, one guest actually tried to call the police mid-scene, believing the violence was real. There were also creative battles behind the camera. The original cut of Safe was reportedly more introspective, with longer flashbacks and more time spent on Luke's past. However, after test screenings, the studio asked Yakin to trim the runtime and focus more on action. Several scenes showing Luke's earlier CIA missions were cut entirely, which disappointed fans hoping to understand the full extent of his trauma. While the final version still hints at his dark past, it leaves much to the imagination, a decision that divided audiences. Controversy also crept in around the film's rating. Originally, Safe was at risk of receiving an NC-17 due to its relentless violence, especially in close-range execution scenes. The now-famous moment where Luke slams a thug's head into a bathroom sink was originally more graphic, showing the aftermath in disturbing detail. The MPAA asked the studio to tone it down. Boaz agreed, but fought to keep the raw feeling intact. As a result, many of the kills in the film happened just off-camera or with a quick cutaway, but still hit hard thanks to sharp sound design and intense performances. Interestingly, the audio team spent an unusual amount of time getting the subway scenes just right. Rather than using generic train sounds, they recorded actual New York subway lines, focusing on unique squeals and rattles that created a tense, claustrophobic atmosphere. When Luke stands on the edge of the platform, considering suicide, the sound of the train coming builds like a heartbeat, slow at first, then rising. It wasn't accidental. Every sound cue in that moment was designed to mirror anxiety. One strange yet memorable anecdote from filming came during a shootout scene involving Russian mobsters and dirty NYPD cops. One of the actors playing a Russian enforcer was a real-life former MMA fighter who had never been in a movie before. During a rehearsal, he forgot it was fake and punched a stunt performer full force. The man went down, and shooting was delayed for hours while medics checked him out. The injured stuntman laughed it off later, calling it the most authentic hit of his career. Not all surprises were violent, though. On a lighter note, Statham was known for his humor between takes. Despite playing such a serious character, he kept morale up with impromptu impressions of cast members and mock fight choreography with the crew. Catherine Chon once said in an interview that he would sneak her chocolates between takes to help her relax, and that made her feel like we were really a team. Even the film's musical score has a little-known story. The composer, Mark Mothersbaugh, best known as a founding member of the band Devo, brought an unusual style to the soundtrack. He mixed traditional orchestral music with electronic sounds and ambient noise to capture Luke's fractured mental state. Some scenes feature what sounds like a steady pulse, almost like a ticking clock or racing heartbeat, to suggest time slipping away. Mothersbaugh said the score was designed not just to accompany the action, but to represent Luke's internal pressure as he races to save May. After filming Wrapped, Safe entered post-production with a sense of urgency. The studio wanted a tight, marketable film, but Yakin pushed for nuance. He argued that it wasn't just a Jason Statham movie. It was a story about people who had lost everything, finding purpose in each other. In the end, a compromise was reached. The film that reached audiences was leaner than the director originally imagined, but still held onto the emotional threads that made it more than just gunfire and punches. Perhaps the strangest thing is that Safe never became a massive box office hit, yet it has quietly grown a loyal following. Viewers continue to discover it as a hidden gem in Statham's career. It's the kind of film that blends grit with grace, power with purpose. And behind every scene, there's a story, a silent choice, a dangerous stunt, a kid actor giving her all, a director fighting to say something deeper through fists and bullets. When we watch Safe, on the surface, it's an intense action thriller, a high-stakes chase through urban shadows where fists fly and bullets crack. But beneath the kinetic energy lies a complex web of themes and symbolism that quietly shape every frame and every moment. The movie's story isn't just about survival. It's about the cost of violence, the search for purity in a corrupt world, and the fragile nature of safety itself. Luke Wright, played with quiet intensity by Jason Statham, is a man marked by loss and trauma. His physical scars mirror his emotional ones. Early in the film, he's portrayed as a wanderer, a ghost moving through the city with no place to call home. His attempt at suicide on the subway platform is more than a plot device. It's a powerful symbol of his internal death, his severed connection to life. Yet his saving of May, a young girl trapped in a dangerous web, becomes a symbolic resurrection. May represents innocence and hope, a living, breathing reminder of purity in a world stained by greed and cruelty. This juxtaposition between Luke's brokenness and May's vulnerability highlights one of the film's core themes: redemption. Luke's journey isn't just physical escape, it's an emotional rebirth. When he takes May under his wing, he begins reclaiming his lost humanity. This is more than a trope. It reflects a deeper commentary on how human connection can heal even the most damaged souls. The movie suggests that safety isn't found in walls or weapons, but in trust and protection offered to the most vulnerable among us. Symbolism is woven subtly throughout Safe. The title itself is layered. On the surface, it refers to a literal safe filled with stolen money and secrets, a classic MacGuffin driving the plot. But Safe also asks a question. What does it mean to be safe in a city riddled with corruption, violence, and betrayal? Luke's physical fight to protect May and the data disk mirrors a broader quest for moral safety, a search for a place where innocence can survive unchecked. The cityscape is also symbolic. Though set in New York, the choice to film in Philadelphia gives the urban environment a slightly off-kilter feel, familiar yet unsettling. The concrete streets, dimly lit alleys, and cramped apartments become a metaphor for entrapment, the claustrophobia of a world where danger lurks just around the corner. This setting reinforces the film's underlying anxiety. Even in the heart of civilization, safety is elusive. One particularly striking symbol is May herself. She is more than a child caught in crossfire. She embodies knowledge and power trapped inside innocence. Her photographic memory and martial arts skill make her a unique prize for various criminal factions. Yet, she is portrayed not as a weapon, but as a beacon, someone whose survival could tip the balance between corruption and truth. May's presence challenges traditional portrayals of children in action films. She is not merely a victim, but an active agent in her own destiny. This speaks to the film's subtle feminism, placing a young girl at the moral center in a genre often dominated by men. Safe also offers a layered social commentary on corruption and exploitation. The film exposes how different systems, organized crime, government agencies, law enforcement, collide and collude to maintain power. The character Alex Rosen, a former CIA operative turned crooked cop, is emblematic of this moral decay. His betrayal of Luke is not just personal, but symbolic of institutional failure. The film hints that the lines between good and evil are blurred by survival, greed, and manipulation. This commentary resonates in the real world, where trust in authority is fragile and often misplaced. Moreover, the film touches on the immigrant experience in a subtle way. May's background is not explicitly spelled out, but her character and the international crime elements suggest a narrative about displacement and exploitation of the vulnerable. May's silent strength and quiet dignity point toward the resilience of those who survive in harsh conditions. The film invites viewers to consider who is truly safe in society, and at what cost. Violence in Safe is never glamorized. Unlike many action movies that celebrate brutality, this film depicts violence as brutal, exhausting, and emotionally taxing. Each fight Luke endures leaves a mark, not just physically, but psychologically. The frequent close-up shots of Luke's weary face, his slight pauses between fights, and his moments of vulnerability emphasize that violence is a last resort, a burden rather than a thrill. This sober portrayal challenges the audience to rethink typical action hero narratives. The movie asks, what is the toll of living by the gun, and can redemption come from such a life? The theme of sacrifice also runs deep. Luke's choice to return the stolen money, even at great personal risk, reflects a commitment to principles beyond survival. It's a rare moment of moral clarity in a film filled with moral ambiguity. His sacrifice is for May's future, and for a sliver of justice in a corrupt system. This idea of personal sacrifice echoes classic hero myths, but is grounded here in gritty realism. The relationship between Luke and May also explores the theme of found family. Neither has a traditional support system, and yet they build trust and care for each other in a hostile environment. This dynamic challenges conventional ideas of family and protection, suggesting that safety can be found in unexpected bonds. The tenderness in their interactions softens the harshness of the film's violence and lends emotional resonance that lingers. On a broader scale, Safe comments on the societal obsession with power and control. The chase for the money and the data disk is about more than wealth. It's about who controls knowledge and influence. The disk's hidden secrets threaten the fragile order maintained by corrupt officials and criminals alike. In a world where power is wielded through information, the film's narrative highlights the fragility of systems built on lies and fear. The film's conclusion is also symbolic. Luke's decision to walk away from wealth and embrace a quieter, safer existence with May signals a rejection of materialism and corruption. It suggests that true safety lies in peace, not possessions. This ending breaks with typical action genre expectations where the hero often claims a prize. Here, the prize is freedom from the cycle of violence. Finally, the film's visual style supports its themes. The use of muted colors, stark lighting contrasts, and tight framing create a sense of confinement and tension. The camera often lingers on Luke's expressions and May's quiet resolve, encouraging viewers to look beyond the surface. The cold urban palette reinforces the film's meditation on isolation and danger, while moments of warmth in their relationship stand out as hopeful interruptions. In summary, Safe is a layered film that transcends its action thriller shell. Through its exploration of redemption, innocence, corruption, and sacrifice, it invites audiences to reflect on what safety truly means, both physically and emotionally, in a world full of threats. Its symbolism, from the title to its characters and settings, enriches the narrative, while its social commentary offers a sobering look at power, trust, and resilience. The film challenges us to find humanity amid chaos, and to believe that even in the darkest places, safety can be reclaimed. From the very first frame of Safe, the film establishes a gritty, grounded tone that draws viewers into a world teetering on the edge of chaos. The director, Boaz Yakin, known for his precise storytelling and ability to balance emotional depth with action, crafts a visual and auditory landscape that does much more than simply frame the narrative. It breathes life into it. Every shot, every cut, every note of music works in concert to pull us deeper into Luke Wright's desperate journey. The film's visual style is anchored by its cinematography, which uses both composition and lighting to convey mood and character. Cinematographer Stefan Chapsky, who also worked on films like Batman Returns, chooses a palette that mirrors the story's emotional landscape. Muted, almost washed-out tones punctuated by moments of harsh light and shadow. The urban environments, filmed largely in Philadelphia, are depicted with a cold realism. Streets are grey and oppressive, alleys feel narrow and threatening, and interiors are often dimly lit. This choice isn't accidental. It visually communicates the themes of entrapment and danger, making the city feel like a living antagonist as much as the criminals chasing Luke and May. Close-up shots are used deliberately and with precision throughout the film. The camera lingers on Jason Statham's face, capturing the nuances of his expression: weariness, pain, determination. Unlike many action films where heroes are often reduced to archetypes, Safe invites the audience into Luke's internal world through these intimate shots. The subtle flicker of doubt in his eyes, the grim set of his jaw before a fight. These details build a portrait of a man pushed to the edge but not broken. Similarly, May's quiet moments are captured with tenderness, the camera often framing her small figure against the overwhelming backdrop of the city. This visual contrast reinforces her vulnerability and strength. The editing style in Safe complements its visual approach, favoring a rhythm that mirrors Luke's own journey. Sometimes slow and deliberate, other times abrupt and violent. Fight scenes are sharp and impactful, with quick cuts that convey urgency without descending into chaotic blurs. Each punch or grapple is given space to resonate, emphasizing physicality over spectacle. The editing doesn't rush, it lets the tension build naturally, which amplifies the suspense. It's notable how moments of silence or minimal sound are often followed by bursts of action or dialogue, creating an ebb and flow that keeps the audience emotionally engaged. Sound design in Safe is another critical pillar shaping the experience. The film doesn't rely on a constant musical score to drive emotions. Instead, it uses ambient sounds to ground the scenes in reality. The hum of city traffic, the distant wail of sirens, the echo of footsteps in empty corridors. These sounds create an atmosphere that is both immersive and unsettling. In quieter scenes, such as Luke's moments of reflection or his interactions with May, the absence of intrusive noise allows the emotional weight to surface naturally. This restraint in sound design is a smart choice, giving authenticity to the world the characters inhabit. When music does enter, it is purposeful and sparse. The score, composed by Mark Isham, weaves subtle electronic motifs with orchestral undercurrents, blending tension and melancholy. The music never overpowers the visuals. Instead, it enhances the film's tone. For example, during chase sequences or confrontations, pulses of music elevate the stakes without slipping into bombast. In more intimate scenes, softer melodies underscore the characters' inner struggles. This balance keeps the emotional texture rich without tipping into melodrama. One of the film's unique stylistic choices is its use of framing to emphasize isolation and connection. Luke is often shot alone in wide shots, dwarfed by the environment, underscoring his loneliness and disconnection. Conversely, when he is with May, the framing tightens, the camera moves closer, reflecting growing trust and intimacy. This visual language of space and proximity subtly communicates the evolving relationship between the two characters without heavy-handed exposition. Another visual storytelling tool employed by Yakin is the interplay of light and shadow. In many scenes, shadows encroach upon characters, symbolizing the looming threats and moral ambiguity that surround them. For instance, scenes where Luke confronts corrupt officials or gang members often occur in dimly lit spaces, with harsh shadows cutting across faces, suggesting hidden dangers and deceit. By contrast, moments of hope or clarity, such as Luke's protective stance over May, are bathed in softer, warmer light, creating a visual metaphor for safety amid darkness. The fight choreography itself is a key element of the film's cinematic language. Unlike typical action movies that showcase flashy moves, Safe favors realism and efficiency. Luke fights not for glory but out of necessity, and this is reflected in the camera work. The use of close, handheld shots during fights puts viewers in the thick of the struggle, emphasizing the physical toll and desperation behind every move. The camera doesn't glamorize violence, but presents it as gritty and exhausting, enhancing the film's grounded tone. Additionally, the director's decision to avoid excessive CGI or unrealistic stunts adds to the authenticity. The practical effects and real-world settings make the action believable, pulling the audience further into the narrative's stakes. This style aligns perfectly with the story's focus on human connection rather than spectacle. Sound also plays a pivotal role in heightening tension. The way footsteps echo in empty hallways, the sudden snap of a gun cocking, or the breathlessness after a fight, all these elements create a visceral experience. At moments of peak suspense, the film often employs silence or near silence, forcing viewers to lean into the tension. This choice intensifies the impact when sounds do break through, such as May's frightened gasp or the metallic clang of a falling object, making these moments linger in the mind. The movie's pacing is another important technical aspect. Rather than maintaining a relentless tempo, Safe takes its time to develop characters and relationships before plunging into action. This measured pacing allows the audience to invest emotionally, making the action scenes carry greater weight. The editing supports this by balancing slower, character-driven scenes with bursts of kinetic energy, crafting a rhythm that mirrors the protagonist's own emotional highs and lows. From a directorial perspective, Boaz Yakin uses visual storytelling to reinforce the narrative's themes. For example, repeated shots of locked doors, confined spaces, and barred windows underscore the character's lack of freedom and the ever-present danger closing in. These motifs create a subtle visual language that enhances the story without distracting from it. The film's color grading also plays a symbolic role. The palette is dominated by cool blues and grays, reflecting the emotional coldness and alienation Luke. Watching Safe, one of the most striking things that stands out beyond the gritty action and suspense is the palpable chemistry between the lead actors, which forms the emotional heart of the film. Jason Statham, already renowned for his tough guy roles, steps into Luke Wright with a rawness that feels more nuanced than many of his past characters. Opposite him, the young actress Catherine Chon, who plays May, brings a quiet intensity that belies her age and screen time. Together, their dynamic creates a relationship that elevates Safe beyond a typical action thriller, making it a story about trust, protection, and the fragile bonds forged in adversity. On set, this chemistry wasn't merely scripted. It blossomed from the genuine respect and rapport between the actors. Jason Statham has spoken in interviews about how working with Catherine was unlike his previous experiences. Her discipline and professionalism impressed him, especially given her young age. Far from being just a child actor delivering lines, Catherine embodied May's strength and vulnerability authentically, creating moments that felt deeply real. Their interactions are not staged performances, but rather a subtle dance of protectiveness and reliance, which makes the stakes feel even higher for the audience. Behind the camera, the relationship between Statham and Chon helped shape many scenes organically. Directors often rely on actors to bring subtext and emotional truth to the script, but here, their natural chemistry created a feedback loop that inspired rewrites and improvisations on set. For example, quiet scenes where Luke watches over May or gently reassures her were often the product of spontaneous moments during filming. This spontaneity translates beautifully on screen, allowing the audience to connect emotionally without feeling manipulated by overt sentimentality. Supporting cast members also contributed significantly to the set's dynamic. Chris Sarandon, who plays the corrupt cop Alex Rosen, delivers a menacing but layered performance, elevating the tension. On set, his interactions with Statham were charged with a kind of professional rivalry that mirrored their characters' conflict, adding an edge to their scenes. This authenticity enhances the film's moral ambiguity. Viewers sense that these characters are not just opponents, but reflections of different paths within a broken system. Filming in Philadelphia brought its own set of challenges and opportunities that shaped the final film. The urban environment itself became a character in the movie, and the cast and crew developed a deep appreciation for the city's raw energy. Statham has mentioned in interviews that the real cityscape, with its cramped apartments, industrial backdrops, and weathered streets, gave their performances a grittier edge than a soundstage ever could. This authenticity is evident in the way the actors move naturally through these spaces, lending credibility to chase scenes and tense confrontations. Weather was another factor that influenced filming. Many of the film's key scenes take place in rain or cold, damp conditions, which added to the atmosphere but also tested the cast and crew's endurance. Long hours of shooting in uncomfortable settings helped bond the team, creating a shared experience of hardship that echoed the film's themes of endurance and survival. These real-life struggles subtly permeate the performances, lending them an extra layer of intensity. The fight scenes in Safe are particularly noteworthy, not only for their choreography, but for how the actors approached them. Jason Statham, with his background in martial arts and stunt work, often performed his own stunts, bringing authenticity to the physicality of Luke Wright. Catherine Chon also trained extensively, not only to perform fight moves convincingly, but to convey May's unique blend of youth and lethal skill. The respect between the actors extended to their safety and well-being, fostering a collaborative environment where trust was paramount, mirroring the protective relationship of their characters. Audiences responded strongly to this chemistry, which is evident in the film's reception and lasting popularity. Critics praised the emotional undercurrent running beneath the action, noting that the relationship between Luke and May was what set Safe apart from many other thrillers. Many viewers cited their bond as the most memorable and affecting aspect of the film. Fan discussions and online forums often highlight moments of quiet connection, like Luke's rare smiles or May's determined gaze, as proof that this was more than just a shoot-'em-up movie. At premieres and screenings, audience reactions frequently shifted from tense anticipation during the chase scenes to a more tender engagement during the quieter moments. This oscillation kept viewers emotionally invested, and word of mouth helped the film build a dedicated fanbase. Over time, Safe has become something of a cult favorite among action fans who appreciate not just the adrenaline, but the depth beneath it. Many fans return to rewatch it, catching nuances in the characters' interactions that might have been missed on a first viewing. Critics' responses, while mixed on some technical elements, consistently highlighted the cast's performances and chemistry as a strength. Reviews often mention how Statham's typical tough guy persona is softened by his protective role, and how Catherine Chan's natural presence provides a compelling counterbalance. This balance helped broaden the film's appeal beyond traditional action audiences, drawing in viewers interested in character-driven stories. The film's long-term engagement also owes much to its rewatchability. Fans often note that the more you watch, the more you appreciate the subtle performances and the way the actors inhabit their roles. The chemistry on screen invites empathy, which transforms what could have been a straightforward action film into something more layered and emotionally resonant. Behind the scenes, there are several anecdotes that shed light on how the cast's relationships influenced production. For instance, during intense fight scenes, Statham and Chon would often rehearse extensively to ensure choreography was safe but realistic. These rehearsals sometimes involved playful moments that helped reduce the tension on set, creating a family-like atmosphere. Statham has credited these interactions with helping him maintain focus and emotional connection, even during physically demanding sequences. Another interesting story involves the improvisation of small gestures, like Luke brushing a strand of hair from May's face, that. As we reach the end of this deep exploration into Safe, it's impossible not to reflect on the many layers that make this film so memorable and distinctive. At its core, Safe is more than just an action thriller. It is a story about survival, trust, and redemption, told with a rare blend of emotional sincerity and intense, grounded action. What sets this film apart is how it manages to balance these elements, crafting a cinematic experience that resonates both intellectually and viscerally. From the very beginning, Safe grabs you with its gritty realism, pulling you into a world where danger lurks in every shadow and safety feels like a distant dream. The urban setting of Philadelphia is not just a backdrop, but a living, breathing entity that shapes every encounter, every chase, every fight. This environment reinforces the film's themes of entrapment and the quest for freedom, immersing the audience in a palpable sense of urgency. Central to the movie's power is the nuanced performance of Jason Statham as Luke Wright. Known for his tough guy roles, Statham here shows remarkable depth, portraying a man hardened by life but softened by his protective instincts. His chemistry with Catherine Chan's May is the emotional backbone of the story. Their evolving relationship, built on trust and vulnerability, provides a human heart to the relentless pace of the action, reminding us why connection matters even in the darkest circumstances. The direction and cinematic techniques elevate Safe beyond typical genre fare. The careful use of lighting, framing, and sound design all work together to create a mood that is both tense and intimate. Scenes of violence are presented with gritty authenticity rather than stylized spectacle, underscoring the raw stakes for the characters. Meanwhile, moments of quiet reflection allow the emotional weight to settle in, providing a counterbalance that enriches the viewing experience. Another defining feature is the film's well-crafted pacing. The story unfolds with a rhythm that mirrors the protagonist's journey, slow and contemplative at times, but punctuated with bursts of explosive action. This ebb and flow keep viewers engaged not just for the adrenaline rush, but for the characters' evolving arcs. It's a pacing that respects the audience's intelligence and emotional investment. Behind the scenes, the genuine chemistry between the cast adds another layer of authenticity. The mutual respect and trust developed on set translate beautifully on screen, especially between Statham and Chon. Their performances feel lived in, not rehearsed, which makes the dangers and the protective instincts all the more believable. The film's critical reception and enduring fanbase also speak volumes. While some initially viewed Safe as a straightforward action film, many came to appreciate its deeper emotional and thematic resonance. Over time, it has gained a reputation as a cult favorite, cherished for its blend of heart and grit, and its refusal to sacrifice character for spectacle. Fans continue to revisit it, uncovering new details and appreciating the careful craftsmanship behind every scene. At its heart, Safe is a story about the lengths we go to protect what matters most. It's about finding light in darkness and hope amidst danger. It challenges the notion that strength is only physical by showing us that vulnerability and connection are just as powerful. Through its layered storytelling, compelling performances, and masterful cinematic choices, Safe invites viewers not just to watch but to feel, to invest in a journey that is as much about the soul as it is about survival. As you reflect on this film, consider how it pushes the boundaries of its genre. It doesn't just deliver thrills, but asks us to look deeper, to empathize with characters who live on the edge. It's this blend of heart and grit, of emotional truth and raw action, that ensures Safe remains relevant and compelling years after its release. If you loved this breakdown, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of cinema. Let's keep exploring movies together. There's so much magic in storytelling, and with each film we dissect, we uncover new layers, new meanings, and new reasons to appreciate the art of cinema. Whether you're a longtime fan of Safe or discovering it for the first time, I hope this journey has deepened your connection to the film and inspired you to revisit it with fresh eyes. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. Until next time, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep celebrating the incredible power of movies.